Hey everybody, this is Praxis. I usually like shooting my videos outside. In this autumn, it was really nice weather for doing that. In fact, just until a couple of weeks ago, deep into the autumn, we were having temperatures that were kind of on par with summer temperatures. We've had really unusual weather for the past several years. It's been hot, it's been cold, it's been hot, it's been cold, up and down, up and down. And just a couple of weeks ago, it really iced up. So I'm not going to shoot today's video outside. What I want to do is shoot today's video inside the greenhouse. And in a strange way, that's exactly what this video is about. This is a video that I've wanted to make for a while because I think it's a really important topic, but the reason that I haven't jumped on it is because it's also a really unpopular topic, especially amongst people in the preparedness community. And I think that's kind of ironic because this topic has everything to do with huge disasters coming our way and having the ability right now to prepare for those. You'd think that a topic like that would be custom built for a lot of people in the prepping and preparedness community, but for whatever reason people shy away from it. And maybe it's because this problem, unlike things like an asteroid coming in and hitting us, or getting invaded by aliens, possibly airdropping bird flu infected clown zombies, or a zombie apocalypse, this particular type of event is not really all that unlikely. In fact, it's pretty much guaranteed as far as I can see, and it's already started. This is a video about climate change.
3 days later.
Oh, you're still here. I assumed everyone was going to take off once they knew what the video was about. All right, well, let's just jump into it. Why am I making this video? Well, to answer that question, I think the best way to approach it is to give you 3 reasons that are not the reason that I'm making this video. Number 1, I'm not making this video to try to change your point of view in terms of how you should live your lifestyle. I'm not suggesting you should change anything about your lifestyle, and the reason for that is it won't make any difference. The changes that are coming whether you change your individual lifestyle or not, so it really doesn't matter to me one way or the other how you live your life. Now that said, there are lots of ways that I've changed my lifestyle to try to reduce my pollution and carbon footprint, and a lot of those things are very positive. They make me more resilient and less reliant on the grid. So for those reasons, a lot of the things that I advocate here for on my channel are very positive and could improve your life in a lot of different ways that I appreciate in my own life, but none of it's going to make a lick of difference in terms of avoiding any of the disasters that we're going to be talking about later in this video. Number 2, I'm not making this video to try to convince you to vote any differently. A lot of times people will say, well, individually, our choices don't make a lot of impact on the world, but collectively, if we could all do things collectively, then we could make big changes. That's completely untrue. And that's untrue for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of what we're going to be talking about in this video is already baked into the cake based on things that we've been doing over the past 50 years. These changes are coming independent of what you, I, and everyone else around us do today and from here on forward. So there's that reason. And the second reason is that even if we could go back in time, and even if we could change people's behaviors early enough to make some kind of a difference, people never would have agreed to any of those things anyway, and they're not going to agree to any of those things today. And even the most fervent supporters of the idea of making changes collectively to try to prevent climate change, the kind of person that is chewing your ear off at Thanksgiving dinner about how right they are and how wrong you are, even that person, if they got their dream team of politicians into office and they were just going to be, by dictatorial edict, making all the changes that these kind of people say that they desperately want, even the most fervent supporters of those people would turn on them in an instant because they're not serious about actually wanting to make the kind of changes that would be required to avoid the things that are coming. It's all just lip service, it's window dressing to make people feel good about themselves. So it doesn't really matter who you vote for because whether it's left, right, or center, nobody anywhere across that spectrum actually wants to make the kind of changes that would make any kind of a real difference. People are too addicted to their lifestyles, and that's just a reality of humanity. So this video has absolutely nothing to do with trying to convince you that if we vote for just a different group of people, we could solve all these problems. We can't. Number 3, the last reason that I am not making this video is because I think that it's going to be a popular video that'll get a lot of views. if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I release stuff that I think is important, and it has nothing to do with whether I think the video is going to get a lot of play or people are going to be particularly interested in it. The reason that I am doing this video is because I think that this is a really important topic, and I think that in terms of people who are preppers, it's really something that is in a lot of people's blind spot area. And I don't know exactly why that is. You would think that a topic like this would be kind of custom made for preppers because it's something where you can really see it coming ahead of time and there are clear things you can do to get ready for it. Maybe it's just too real for some people, or I'm not really sure, to be totally honest, why this is not on more people's radar. But I want to do this video to try to implore a lot of you guys who are into prepping and preparedness to take this one seriously, because this is something that it's pretty easy to see coming. I've got a pretty good track record in terms of, in terms of sciencey stuff, figuring out like what's the BS science and what's the real science. There's a really great opportunity to see that all throughout COVID, where there was a lot of crap science out there. But, point for point, right through the whole period, I don't know, maybe I've just got like a Scooby sense about it. I can kind of pick up where the junk science is and where the real science is. And every bit of me sees this climate change situation as being pretty straightforward and pretty easy to predict. So that's why I wanted to talk about it with you guys. There is kind of a debate in terms of climate change when it comes to drivers. I think that's the big debate at the moment. 20, 30 years ago, there was a debate as to whether or not it was even going to happen. And now that it's clear that it is, the debate is just over drivers. And drivers are really important, but not for the reason that people usually talk about them being important. Usually when people talk about what's driving climate change, they are saying, well, if we know what's driving climate change and we know that it's something we have control over, we can change our behaviors and then we can push climate change in a direction that is more favorable for us. But like I mentioned earlier, it's just human nature. That's just not going to happen. Whether we know what's causing it or not, people just collectively, they're just too addicted to their lifestyles. Even the true believers, they're not going to want to give up their, all their travel and their vacations and all these other things that people have become addicted to in order to make any kind of a change. So for that reason, it doesn't really make any difference whether or not we know the drivers. But there is a reason why it's really important to know the drivers of climate change if you're a prepper, and that is for the predictive power of it. If you know what is pushing some sort of phenomena forward, and you can measure whatever that driver is, you can predict what's going to be happening in that phenomena before it actually happens. And that is why it's really important for preppers to know what are the actual drivers of climate change. Now, there are many things that contribute to what the climate is here on Earth, and the climate here on Earth has always been changing, based on these different factors. And the factors pretty much boil down to energy in and energy out. Energy in is the energy, solar energy coming in from the sun. That's the heat energy and the light energy coming in from the sun. And then energy out here on Earth is controlled by pretty much our atmosphere, the mixture of gases, whether there have been volcanic eruptions, which put stuff up into the atmosphere, the albedo effect of whether there's a lot of white surfaces or a lot of cloud cover, which reflects stuff back out into space. There are all sorts of contributors to what the final climate situation is here on Earth. And as all those different things change and fluctuate, the solar output goes up and down, the albedo effect, increases and decreases, the mixture of gases in the atmosphere either is more insulating or less insulating. As all those things change, it all goes through an equation and then it results in a final result. So if you know what are the drivers that are causing the changes that we're seeing right now, you can look at what those drivers are and you can kind of see where things are going. So let's talk about this in terms of energy and energy out. And in that way, it's a lot like somebody who's having issues with their weight. It's energy in, food, versus energy out, exercise and all your metabolism and all that type of thing. If food coming in is constant and the person is gaining weight, then you would presume that their exercise or the amount of energy leaving their body, or maybe they got a tapeworm. But you would assume that part of the energy out equation is what has changed, and that's what's resulting in the changes that you're seeing. And in the same way with climate, we are tracking all over the planet what the global temperature is. There's just temperature monitoring stations all over the planet. And we've been able to see, just over time that the temperature is steadily going up and up and up and up and up. Here's one graph that's kind of showing that. I promise there's only 3 graphs in this whole video. So we know that there is an increasing temperature trend that we've been seeing, over the past number of years. We can also measure the output from the sun, and here is a graph of the solar output from the sun, and you can see that it goes up and down and up and down, but it has kind of like a general sort of mean. You go back far enough, and there was kind of like a minimum period where it was a little bit cooler, and we have had periods where we've had ice ages, and over the recent number of years, we've seen actually kind of a decline in solar output. So the amount of energy coming into our system is relatively flat. Recently, it's gone down a little bit, and yet we see the heat on our planet building up and up and up. So there are a lot of people out there that think that the climate is 100% entirely driven by solar output. And if you're in the business of trying to predict the future and then use your future predictions to best position yourself to be ready for that future, and it's your opinion that climate is solely driven just by the sun, and you look at solar graphs, it's not really all that alarming, because you look at solar output and it's pretty steady over time. So, from that perspective, you wouldn't think that there's really any big reason to prepare for any kind of real climate changes, because, climate is driven by the sun, and, the sun is pretty static. We see it as pretty static. And in fact, recently, it's, like I mentioned, been going down in solar output. So maybe what we really should be planning for is an ice age. And there are people out there that say that. And yet, the temperature data is pretty clear. And anybody knows how to read a thermometer. And the temperature just keeps going up and up and up. So it seems unlikely to me that you would get an increasing trend of a result based on a flat input. You would think that if you're getting some kind of an increasing trend, it's on some variable that's changing, and the sun really isn't changing that much. It has its 11 and 22 year cycle, and there's some fluctuations within there. But in terms of what we're seeing as the results that we're seeing seem like they're being driven by something that's changing, because the results are changing. So you have to look at the other drivers of what creates our climate. That gets into the albedo effect and the mixture of gases in the atmosphere. And there's a really easy match to the warming trend that we're seeing, and that is the increasing trend of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Independently, people also understand the idea that carbon dioxide is a gas that tends to absorb more infrared light. Infrared light tends to carry the heat. So logically, you would just tend to think that, well, if you introduce more of a type of gas that is good at trapping heat into a system, then that whole system will tend to, maybe, you want to test these things out and find out for sure, but that whole system would tend to get more of that effect. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes you can add one thing into a system and the results are kind of like backwards and upside down. But what we're actually seeing on the ground is that not only would you expect that if you added more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, that it would tend to absorb more of the infrared light and prevent it from radiating out into space when it's on the nighttime side of the planet. Not only would you expect that, but we are actually seeing that result. So it seems to me that the most likely driver of the changes that we're seeing presently on our climate are the changes that we are seeing presently in our atmosphere, and those changes are, the additional carbon dioxide that we're pumping out into it. Now, why is that important? Well, the reason that that is important is because if you can understand that connection, and if you're correct in that assumption that those two things are connected and one drives the other, if you're correct in that, and I kind of assume that I am, now you have the ability to read the future, because if you can watch where carbon dioxide is going, then you can kind of make some somewhat educated guesses about where the temperature may be going. And while if you think that the temperature is driven by solar output, you might be comforted looking at those kind of solar output charts, because they're relatively flat most of the time. And like I mentioned, even recently, they've been kind of going down a little bit. But if you look at carbon dioxide concentration charts, you have reason to think that perhaps where we're going to be headed with temperature on this planet is a little bit more extreme and might require a little bit more preparation than none at all. And that's really why I wanted to make this video, is because it's really important to understand what is changing, the changes that we know that we're seeing, because if we can understand what's driving those changes, we can make predictions. And if we can make predictions, we can get ready for things. Now, collectively, as a society, we're not really going to get ready for any of this stuff. We're just going to drive the car right off the road. I mean, you can see us doing that geopolitically and economically, environmentally, in every way. Collectively, humans, they're just going to drive the car off the road. But you and me, individually, we can make changes in our life to prepare for these events that are headed our way. Now, this video is not going to be about what are all the disasters that are going to befall us because of a changing climate. That's a very complicated topic, and that's a whole other video. This video, I just wanted to focus specifically on that tethering of cause to effect. Because if you are tethering the wrong cause to the wrong effect, you're not going to have any ability to predict where things are going. And if you're in the business of being a prepper, it's pretty important to be able to predict things. That's it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for new videos all the time. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so either through Patreon or PayPal.